All right, you get the point. Um, the That was some home movies by the Hoffmans. Last week we did the Chonkas. To mute my preview computer. Uh, welcome. Welcome to Monday. Welcome to the AV Geeks lunchtime streaming show where we watch old 16mm films. And those were some home movies. The Hoffmans were a family based in Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, I think. And the family, they were pretty well to do, so they traveled a lot. And so I scanned a bunch of these films for the Center for Home Movies, who own the Hoffman collection. And the films themselves are permanently housed at the Library of Congress in Culpeper, Virginia. And so anyways, this was their trip to Florida, and I'll show more throughout the week. And what's fascinating is of the home movies we've transferred, and we have transferred thousands of home movies, of a time, going to Florida meant you went to Cypress Gardens. That was what you did. This is before Disney World. This is before Universal Studios. And so you go to Cypress Gardens, and you make your way to Miami, and you go to maybe you go to St. Augustine as well, and I'm reading something in the comments which I will address later. But yeah, anyways, it's pretty interesting to see how many people visited that. There's also a place that people go to called Pierrott Jungle, where it's basically they have these parrots and cockatiels that do tricks, and so yeah. Anyways, what do I got here? I'm reading a lot of stuff about The Day the Clown Cried, and I want to do some clarification, which I will do after I show this film. I want to get my facts straight, but I heard from the person at the Library of Congress about that film, and so we'll talk more about that after we learn how to build puppets with Pierrott. Is that right? Is that how you pronounce it? It's not the same Pierrott that is a puppet. It's somebody else. Enjoy.
How come there's never anything to do? Anybody got any ideas? Me neither.
Say, I have an idea. Let's make some puppets like we did today in school.
Oh, come on, Celestine. You really thought that was fun?
Oh, yeah.
Celestine, you think everything we do in school is fun.
Let's make puppets of ourselves.
Of us?
Of us? Sure. Come on. This'll really be fun.
But what can we use to make our puppets out of?
Wait. I'm getting an idea. Eggs.
Eggs? What a silly idea.
Look at my puppet, Ben.
Ah, now that's one handsome puppet, Celestine.
Oh, Ben.
gonna use eggshells and cardboard tubes to make my puppets. And I'm gonna make a puppet of you first, Celestine.
Oh, really, Ben?
Yeah. There. Now you're a real egghead.
Ben, I do not think that's one bit funny.
It's okay, Celestine. Look.
We're all eggheads. Look at Juanita.
What's she doing?
I'm cutting little circles out of cloth. Now I'm sewing my circles into buttons. I'm going to make a button puppet. Look, Pierrot. My puppet looks like you. Pierrot! Pierrot!
Puppets, puppets, puppets. Everybody's used up all the good ideas. Wait a minute. I could use balloons. Balloons just might work. First the body. And balloons for the head. There. Perfect.
Yo-ho, Pierrot. Hoo-hoo, Pierrot. Hello, Pierrot.
Hi. Pierrot, make another one.
Okay, Celeste. Watch.
Why, that long blonde hair. Oh, Pierrot, you made a puppet of me. Pierrot, I don't think that's one bit funny.
No, Celeste, look. It's a puppet of me.
All right, so I'm joined by one of my interns, Miles. Miles could not make it to my 1,000-minute streaming show because he was in Florida. Anyways, he just graduated from a film studies program at NC State, and he's looking for a job with Benny's. So if you're in the Raleigh triangle area, and you know of something that he can do. He's doing work for me, but I don't have the resources to give him benefits, so, and he needs them. So there you go. So I was bringing him on because there seemed to be a lot of chatter about The Day the Clown Cried, the notorious Jerry Lewis film that was made by Jerry Lewis. He, in attempts to create a thoughtful piece about a clown who entertains kids in a concentration camp, Nazi concentration camp, where he, at the last moment, realized this is incredibly tasteless. And maybe it was his crew, somebody who said, like, no, do not release this. This is really, really horrible. So thankfully, you know, somebody stepped in. That's what you want. You know, I think that's what George Lucas should have had. He, like, at some point, they were like, no, don't release those prequels. But he didn't have that person. I would say that person was his ex-wife, basically, who edited his movies. Anyways, so this news item from nationalnews.com was posted saying that, oh, it's going to be released. That Library of Congress has all the Jerry Lewis films at their facility in Culpeper, Virginia. And I actually, the last time I toured there, I saw a bunch of the Jerry Lewis stuff on pallets. He has a certain label. It includes his home movies and stuff. And so supposedly the deal was that in 10 years they would show The Day the Clown Cried. And it's 10 years this year, but there have been no plans to show it. And I got confirmation from Rob Stone at the Library of Congress, who said, no, this news article is not based on anything factual. Like, they didn't talk to anybody about this. They just said that there's going to be a screening in June. And that's if you did the math about when the collection showed up at the archive, and then you added 10 years to it. That's the deal. So, yes. That film has not been shown. It is in question how complete what they have is. It is in question, do they have the original materials? Do they have a print, like a work print? But the thing is, like, we want to see it because we were told that we were not allowed to see it. But I guarantee you it's probably not good. It's probably really, really bad. And, I mean, we delight in showing things that are really, really bad here on the show. But anyways, so Miles, what do you think about?
I mean, I hope one day I get to see it.
Right.
I know Jerry Lewis from The King of Comedy, so I have this like really positive image of him in my head. I didn't grow up with all of his controversies and whatnot,
right.
So I would really, really enjoy to see this other side of Jerry.
Yeah.
Maybe.
No, I don't know. I think that some of his later comedies, I remember seeing them as a kid and going like, oof, not good. Not good at all. But, oh well. Anyways, let's watch how to improve your pronunciation, which is kind of set up like a game show or a talk show. It's really weird. Anyways, enjoy.
Well, if I can help, I'm really glad to do it.
That's about the way I feel about it, too.
No, Dick, I'm sort of a little nervous.
All right, now, everybody sit down. Make yourself comfortable. That's good, Peggy. Sit down. Yeah, right, go ahead. Now, just relax. We're about ready to go. Okay, good.
Well, I guess we'll be talking about pronunciation.
No, Peggy. The word is not pronunciation. It's pronunciation.
Hello, I'm Ned Blandford, and with a little help from my friends, Peggy, Dick, Lucy, Bob, I'll start the discussion. Bob, give us an example of a pronunciation problem.
Dick, use is important for effective communication.
What did he say? Pardon me?
I said exact usage is important for effective communication.
No, Bob really isn't a sound smudger, but you probably know people who are. Sound smudgers are fairly common. So are word grunters. Lucy, would you please demonstrate?
Grunters don't make individual sounds clearly.
Right. Grunters don't make individual sounds clearly. They don't articulate. Sound smudgers run words together by dropping sounds. Grunters and smudgers often substitute one sound for another. Sound smudgers and grunters aren't born. They're made. People who have pronunciation problems have them because they're nervous.
In a lot of dog shows.
And people become smudgers or grunters because they are shy.
He knows a lot of tricks. I have a dog. His name's
And people
Jocko.
smudge and grunt words
He's a
just
French
from
poodle.
carelessness.
He
One
likes
way
to
to
bark a
improve
lot.
your general
He knows all the
pronunciation is to speak
retrievers.
with your mouth open.
So then I said, who is he?
Don't talk through your teeth. Open your mouth.
So then I said, who is he?
Because I'm not going to let you copy my homework.
Practice letting your jaw work, too. Practice using your tongue and lips to form words.
Of course I'm not going to let you copy my homework.
Gonna?
Oops, I mean going to.
Any pronunciation problems are not as easily recognized as simple smudges or grunts. Let's take a word. Peggy, how would you say it?
Nuclear.
Say it again, Peggy.
Nuclear.
Wrong. Not nuclear. Nuclear.
I did not say nuclear.
You didn't? Let's listen to it again.
Nuclear. Well, I guess I did say nuclear.
Saying nuclear for nuclear is a good example of transposing sounds. Transposing sounds is fairly common, as with this word.
100.
No, not 100. 100. You transposed a sound.
Right, and transposing sounds can be a fairly common pronunciation problem.
Hydrogen.
I'm sorry, but you're wrong.
Not hydrogen. You transposed the R sound. The word is pronounced hydrogen. Hydrogen.
Lucy, how about this one?
Jewelry.
How about jewelry?
I think that's wrong. You transposed the L sound.
Right. Jewelry is wrong. Jewelry is correct.
Why do people do that?
Do what?
Transpose sounds?
I know, fella. Because people never listen to themselves.
Right. Listening to yourself is important. Listen to what Bob just said.
I know, fella.
Saying fella instead of fellow is incorrectly changing sounds within words. It's like saying kin for can, catch for catch, Earl for oil, Goyle for girl.
How about saying picture for picture?
Another very good example. Saying another for another is a better example. Did I say another? Another very good example. I guess I did.
What you mean, then, is that most pronunciation problems happen because people fool around with things like sound.
Exactly. It's like you're dropping the D from around and sound.
What'd I say? People fool around with things like sound.
Come on now, aren't you being a little picky?
No, because poor pronunciation can interfere with effective communication. Take a simple sentence.
I beg your pardon, but what did he say?
Great. We can use that as an example. Now drop some sounds.
I beg your pardon, but what'd he say?
See? People often increase pronunciation problems. If someone drops or adds sounds in one word, they tend to do it in others. We can see how dropping sounds can confuse your listener and interfere with communication.
Environment.
You left out an N. Not environment. The word is environment.
Blong, that's blong.
No, there's an E in there. Belong. Belong. Lymph.
What about the G? Length.
Literature.
Right. I was sure he'd say literature without the sound.
But I didn't. Once I had trouble with it, but not anymore. Once I had trouble with it. What happened now?
You added a sound.
Not once, just plain once is correct.
Ah, once.
And that brings us to the last type of common pronunciation error we're going to deal with, adding sounds.
Statistics.
You added a sound, not statistics, but rather statistics.
Sherbert?
No, I'm afraid not.
Oh, I see. I added an R. Sherbet.
Across. Oh, no, wait a minute. Across.
And that's how it is. The whole key to good pronunciation is to use the right sounds. Don't transpose sounds.
Not nuclear, it's nuclear.
Don't change sounds.
Not another. Another.
Don't drop sounds.
No, not length. Length.
Right. And don't add sounds.
Wait a minute. Not across. Across.
In other words, what we need to do is find the correct way and say it.
Right.
Now I suppose you're going to put in a plug for the dictionary.
Right again. The dictionary is important because a lot of words are not pronounced as they look. For example,
Suit.
No, sweet. It's a French word.
How about Worcester? Is it French?
Nope, English. Worcester is correct.
And Worcestershire is also correct.
your own patterns of pronunciation will depend upon what is acceptable to people with whom you talk. But if you make it a habit to rely upon the dictionary, you won't be wrong. Then besides using the dictionary for pronunciation guides, there are other things you can do to improve your pronunciation. Listen to yourself. Listen to other people. Listen to new words. Listen to old words. But listen.
What else can we do besides listen to people?
Well, you can make a list of words that cause you trouble.
You mean mischievous words.
Exactly.
Mischievous can be the beginning of my list.
And it can start my list, too. And I can add library to my list. Not library. Library.
I probably should make a list, too. What did I say? What did I do?
You changed the second B to an L. It's not probably, it's probably.
And if you added the few words we have just talked about, you would all have pretty good lists. Now that you have your lists, the next step is to
Practice. Pronunciation.
So when I was in 8th grade, a little bit of high school, my dad was he was a chimney sweep on the weekends. And so I would help him because it was a way to make money. It was horrible work. I cannot recommend it. But anyways, so people would say, "Oh, you're the chimney sweep." So they'd add an L. And some people would add a B, and they call it chimbley sweep. So you're the chimbley sweep. I was like, that's so weird. It's rural Piedmont, North Carolina. Really strange. Let's learn about a fluid for life. Water. Enjoy.
For billions and billions of years, the Earth was barren and lifeless, until slowly, almost imperceptibly, something happened. It happened in water. Water is, and always has been, the cradle for all life on Earth. It is the birthplace of every living thing. About 3.5 billion years ago, life first appeared. These are the simplest forms of life on Earth. Bacteria. The earliest life may have looked something like this. Algae are another primitive form of sea life, and, like all green plants, are producers of oxygen. Most of the oxygen we breathe came from plants in the sea. In time, plant life invaded the fresh water, and as the plants flourished over the eons, they continued to produce oxygen and slowly change the composition of the air and the water, allowing the development of new kinds of life. Oxygen breathers, single-celled protozoa. Yet even for these simple creatures, the water is absolutely vital, for the water supplies them with oxygen and food. Still later, larger, more complex organisms developed in the water. Creatures capable of hunting their food. For water is more than the source of life. It is the source of food for life. A more sophisticated organism, the freshwater hydra, also depends on the water for its food and survival. As freshwater life evolved, it also developed the ability to carry the life-giving sea within it. The fluid in the snail and in the eggs is salt water. The dragonfly nymph carries independence one step further. It begins life in water. It is born there. It eats and breathes in the water. Between a year and 5 years from its birth, a wondrous transformation takes place which frees it forever from its life underwater. Metamorphosis. The nymph changes into an air-breathing dragonfly, but its link to the sea continues. The fluid in its body remains essentially seawater. Now it carries the sea with it up onto the land. Water covers 3/4 of the surface of our planet, and it is still the home of the majority of creatures living today. Whether the animals are seawater or freshwater, the fluid in their bodies is always, basically, seawater. The vertebrates, animals with backbones, are the most advanced form of life, yet are still dependent on water for their survival and reproduction. Most plants and animals are still conceived and born in water. Even you first developed in seawater, for that's basically what the fluid in your mother's womb was. At one stage of development, you had gills and even looked like an unborn fish. And though before your birth you developed into a human, you share a common origin with the fish, a beginning in the sea. The salamander is an animal that spends part of its time on land and part in the water. It's an air breather, but must return to the water to bear its young. The young are left behind in the water. The adult leaves the water to return to its world, the land. For now, the young salamanders must take their oxygen from the water. In time, they too will take it from the air. Stone is the great museum of nature. Locked in the stone are the petrified records of earlier life in the sea. By studying the structure and evolution of sea life today, we are learning to reconstruct the evolution of life long ago. Even today, we can see fossilization going on in the water. A great many plants and animals we see in the water today have barely changed over millions of years. Most of our clues to ancient sea life are not found in the water, but on land that once was beneath the sea. We learn about the past by studying the present. Near a fossilized crab are the petrified remains of an ancient snail. Today we know of a peculiar crab that lives inside the abandoned shell of the water snail. The hermit crab is probably the descendant of that earlier life form, a strange lifestyle that successfully survived those millions of years. It spends its life moving freely between ocean and land, a versatile animal that carries its home on its back. Another animal from the distant past is the scorpion. Today, a land animal that avoids the water, but the descendant of an animal that once lived exclusively in the sea. The turtle is another ancient water animal, but it has never completely broken its tie with the water. Today, it spends much of its time in the water eating and mating. But it must have air to breathe, and it must return to land to lay its eggs. Water was the cradle of all life, and it still is today. All living things are mainly water. The support and maintainer of every life on Earth. The source.
All right, that was nice. And with a leader lady at the end, a Kodak LAD lady, I think, LAD, and I can't remember, something area density. I'm not sure what it is, but it's for determining color processing, and they show up occasionally. And I think I have an example of it in one of my intros that we do. All right, one Saturday morning. This is about a disaster. Which one is it? Why don't you figure out? Enjoy. Not going to play that song because YouTube will go nope, and they'll stop the stream, and we want to get to the disaster footage. Let's see. Nope, not there yet. Yeah, that song, I guess, made famous in the movies The Sterile Cuckoo, that has Liza Minnelli in it. Let's see, hold on.
All right, the world is a circle. Don Ellis has just called me on the mobile unit, and he says it apparently is going to be quite a serious problem. So you people on the North Fork and the South Fork of the Teton Rivers, inflate your rafts.
I don't think she's gonna hold to these rocks. She appears to be widening.
Enlargement of the fingertips.
All right, I'm going to interrupt right here and put Don Ellis in the KRXK mobile unit on.
All right, thank you very much, Lee Savage. We do have a very, very serious problem here at the Teton Dam.
Hans, this is 056. Abandoned attempt to retrieve Cat 2. Repeat, abandoned attempt and evacuate the area immediately.
As I sit here and watch, you see it caving. It's just coming apart.
At 11:57 a.m. on June 5th, 1976, the Teton Dam collapsed, flooding homes and farms in the Upper Snake River Valley with 80 billion gallons of water. Here are recollections of how the people faced that disaster and rebuilt their lives.
And the water is monumental. Holy great. What can I say? People downstream better get out. People downstream better get out.
A young fellow pulled me off and said the Teton Dam had broken. I thought he was just kind of joking, so I laughed about it. Went on down to the florist and bought a tree and took it up and planted it. And then some of my neighbors said that we ought to turn on the radio because it really had happened.
And then when he said the Teton Dam had broke, we had about an hour to clear town. I told him it was a bunch of baloney.
Report from an aircraft in the vicinity of Sugar City. The wall of water is approximately 5 to 6 miles wide and is moving buildings and everything out of its way. Cattle in the front that don't have a chance, and suggested that all the people that are anywhere near the river at all to get out of the way.
Though the warnings came late, and it was difficult to convince many people the dam indeed had burst, the timing of the flood in the middle of the day prevented mass deaths, and most residents were evacuated to higher ground where they watched the eerie occurrence of houses and belongings floating away.
Well, it was gushing, and it was so high, it was coming in, I would say probably 5 to 8 feet high, and it was traveling fast. And in head of it was just gusts of dirt billowing up high as it was pushing this land, the soil, in head of it. And it was traveling, I'll tell you. And there was cattle that was swimming. There was trailer houses floating. There was homes, brick homes floating. We watched it from up above.
We got up on the roof of our house to see what was happening, and we could see the water coming from Sugar City this direction. It had a big dust in front of it. And we just couldn't believe the speed of the water coming in. It seemed like the water would be around those houses about 30 seconds before the house would start to move. And the widow lady lived a little below me up there, and we stood there and watched her house, and it was like somebody was driving it. It just raised up off the foundation and come out onto the street, made a right-hand turn, went part of a block down the street, then kind of made a 45-degree angle left-hand turn and went across the park and landed about a block and a half away from where it was.
Some 220,000 acre-feet of water roared through the huge gouge of the Teton Dam that unforgettable Saturday morning. The water spread its destruction as fast as a mile a minute in the areas of Wilford and Sugar City. As it cut a swath of destruction 7 miles wide, the water's level reached from 8 to 10 feet in height. The results? Over $1 billion worth of damage. Destruction to 4,000 homes, wiping out 250 businesses and 3,500 farm buildings. 11 human deaths. The killing of 13,000 head of livestock, and stripping topsoil from 100,000 acres of rich farmland. As the helpless Idahoans watched their homes, businesses, and animals destroyed before their eyes, their reactions varied.
It came in from the northeast corner. My home is 2 blocks in from the area right over here, across the street, this lovely brick home that used to be. We watched it come in. First reaction was, it's taking our business first. We have the drive-in theater out here, and it swept our drive-in theater out, washed us out completely, and in less than a minute and a half, it got our home.
You could see the cattle trying to get away from it. We watched one bunch of cattle that had run away from the water and turned right around and run right back into it.
With roads crumbled, telephone and power service to the area knocked out, and debris spread everywhere, the dazed residents of 6 towns slowly moved back to survey the damage.
The no stretch of the imagination could the flood confront us with the kinds of things we were seeing. As we came upon the town, there were several major fires burning. Hundreds of buildings were completely demolished. Huge logs weighing up to 5 or 10 tons moved at 12, 15 miles an hour, so that when they hit a building, it simply exploded the building.
Well, the whole town was more or less devastated, and the Sugar City, Wilford area, they're just as bad. If you were alone in the thing, it'd be a little bit tough to face up to, but I have a lot of good neighbors, and the whole town's in the same boat, so there's really not much any one of us can say. I mean, just dig in and dig out.
Though stunned, the people below the Teton Dam area weren't down and out, not yet. As the floodwaters began to recede and they started to assess the massive damage, relief efforts were already underway. The Idaho State Police, acting under the governor's office, moved in to control traffic in and out of roads not destroyed by the flood. The LDS Church and the Red Cross set up relief headquarters on the Ricks College campus in Rexburg. Local LDS wards had already assessed conditions of people within their boundaries, and residents with damaged or destroyed homes headed for Ricks College to await food, clothing, and beds. The church and Red Cross were rushing food and supplies into the stricken area even before the end of the day. Simultaneously, vital services had to be restored. Railroad lines had to be repaired, as well as electric power and phone service that had been destroyed. As the first relief efforts began, the power company was assembling the largest armada of service crews ever, what amounted to mobilization of half of the company's service crews. They began rolling into the flood-devastated area shortly after dawn of the next day.
We were in Rexburg with, as I remember, 47 line crews shortly after dawn. We had at least 400 men working. As the mayor later told me, it seemed there was a line crew in every corner. I remember how much it meant to those people as they were coming back for their first view of their flooded homes.
Massive flood debris at the power company's Rexburg Service Center was the major obstacle to restoring electric power that had to be overcome first.
Our service center was full of logs, debris, dead cattle, and a huge oil tank that had been carried down by the flooding, burning approximately 40 yards from the building. The yard had timber and debris at least 10 to 12 feet deep and stretched across our property and into the railroad tracks over into the sawmill area. The substation itself was jammed with hundreds of heavy timber logs and dead cattle rammed into the transformers and oil switches, and the fence was completely obliterated. Pierrott and his folks moved in and began pulling logs and debris out, and restoring the fence, drying the relays. Amazingly enough, by the end of the day, the transformer was energized and it held.
Many local crew supervisors and members worked around the clock during the first few days to restore vital power service, even though taking no time at all to return to their own flooded and destroyed homes. Power service was re-established to 3,000 customers and hookups established for an additional 1,054 residents whose homes were destroyed. This took place as crews feverishly put in 1,000 poles and 200 miles of conductor wire during 14 exhaustive days of relief efforts. More than 70,000 man-hours were worked before the power company had restored 90% of the service to the valley. from the LDS Church Relief Headquarters at Ricks College, the plucky local residents headed out each day to begin the slow, painstaking task of digging out of all the rubble.
The mud wasn't a normal kind of mud. It was a greasy mud. It almost felt like it had graphite in it. It permeated everything, even behind the plaster walls, from the plumbing and all of our wiring ducts. It permeated the clothing and the storage foods and every sort of thing that it covered in the homes.
The Idaho National Guard and State Police continued their ever-vigilant job of monitoring traffic in and out of the areas as crews worked to repair major road damage and other communication and transportation facilities. Mopping up began around the Teton Dam as federal scientists, engineers, and Bureau of Reclamation officials puzzled over the collapse of the 305-foot-high, 3,200-foot-wide structure, which had been completed only 8 months earlier. The dam's reservoir was still being filled on the morning of June 5th when the dam failed. This region, the Snake River Plain, was first settled by Mormon pioneers in the 1870s. Those first settlers found a harsh land with cold winters and searing summers, but the soil was fertile mountain loam, which when irrigated could produce bountiful crops. So an agricultural economy grew up which depended on vital irrigation water. Farmers formed irrigation districts to build canals and dig wells to water their crops. Even in the 1930s, farmers talked about the possibility of damming the Teton River to store irrigation water. It wasn't until 1961, after years of studies by government agencies, that plans for a major dam on the Teton were announced. When bids were first taken on the dam in 1971, lawsuits by environmentalists and other groups dragged the initial planning on and on. Construction began in 1972 on the controversial project, but concerns over its geological structure led to the most complex grouting program the Bureau of Reclamation engaged in for any dam in their history, involving more than 575,266 cubic feet of cement. From the time the dam began to fill with water in October of 1975, the Bureau was plagued with continuing fissure problems in the right abutment.
Right here. Hey, Carl, and then Brother Wallace coming here. Let's see. You got some gals with you? There's some right there. They'll go with you.
The scars of the catastrophe will remain for a long time. But for Idahoans, the cleanup was foremost in their minds, and help poured in from even wider areas. LDS church member volunteers from Utah and Idaho gave more than 1 million man-hours to help the stricken area in cleanup projects. Slowly and surely, the debris and devastation was sorted out. To be sure, it didn't alter the fact that many families had their homes completely destroyed and would have to begin again from scratch. Rebuild. This would be a long, hard process. But as the tremendous efforts of restoring the residents to their homes, the reconstruction of roads, the restoration of power, the town of Rexburg started to look again like a real city. The people could reflect on how their lives had been completely changed by that one devastating event. Recollections of disaster. But a realization that man must work hard and give his best efforts for the service to others. We are reminded that all men are fallible, that no matter what we conquer, nature's strength and magnitude, we can always fail. But even so, man will always have the will to survive, to build, to master.
All right, we're gonna mute that again. So fascinating film, obviously. because it captures a disaster that was man-made. It was a bad dam. Bad dam. And that happens. Happens a lot. There was a very tiny dam near where my wife and I live that was built, and it had a minor failure, and a bunch of water flooded out of it after we received a bunch of rain. And thankfully, I think there was damage to one house that was kind of in the path of it, but thankfully nobody was hurt. But it was kind of crazy, and a neighbor of mine captured some of it on video, and it was just this loud, like, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh sound. So, yeah, we're going to watch this as I talk, because of they're just playing that one Saturday morning song, and that will get us a YouTube strike. And I've been having a lot of issues with YouTube and music recently, and have been trying to figure out ways to post films, maintain the dialogue, but remove the offending music, so that I don't get these hidden strikes. Trying to figure that out. But this is all, the reason why I showed this and I thought about it is because tomorrow we're supposed to get an insane amount of rain, and so we're trying to prepare here at the archive by cleaning out gutters and tarping some things that will sometimes lead to water in the basement, which is not great. So, anyways, thank you, Utah Power and Light Company. It's fascinating. All right. Thanks for watching today. If you like what you saw, you can hit the thumbs up button. You can hit the like button. You can also donate to the cause by using the Super Thanks button, or by using the ko-fi.com/avgeeks or patreon.com/avgeeks. Those are great ways to support us financially. And, you know, provided we have power in the rain tomorrow. I don't know what it's going to be like. I really have no idea. But it's just like, oh, this rain's coming. It could be between 2 and 4 inches, which means it could be between 1 and 5 inches. Or it could be no rain at all. Anyways, I'll be here if we got power. Otherwise, I'll see you on Wednesday. Everybody have a great rest of your day. And I know that some of you up north, this is going to be frozen precipitation, so please be careful driving. Those of you in the rain, be careful of flooding. Don't drive through flooded waters. You know, just please be careful. I want to see you in the comments, because I enjoy what you do, and I enjoy showing films to you. So please keep yourself safe, because we care. All right, bye everybody. We'll see you soon. Take care.